Well, at least with Cloud, there is a strategy that you just gotta learn in order to make sure that his legs don't pop off when you're articulating him. I think it was a couple of years back when Square Enix finally announced that they'll be releasing 1/12 scale or 6-inch scale figures of the classic or the OG FF7 characters through their Bring Arts line. And to the fandom, including myself, that was a dream come true. And finally, after over 2 decades, we're getting super accurate representations, plastic representations of our beloved characters from one of the best JRPG of all time. But so far, if I'm being honest, these figures have been a major disappointment. And this guy, definitely, to me, is the biggest disappointment as far as, the progression of this line is concerned. I've already unboxed this figure and, just to get an initial feel of what he's like, because the way they've built the rest of the characters have been quite concerning. They definitely had a rocky start with Cloud. Aerith, to me, sucks in a lot of ways. Barrett so far has been the best. He feels the most substantial, and his build quality is just superb, as if it doesn't belong to this Bring Arts line. As to why I have a lot of negative feelings about this figure, you'll understand why as we go along with this review. Now let's do a very quick overview of the box. Here at the front, very straightforward. It's a large product shot. It looks good. Final Fantasy VII Bring Arts action figure number 5. Fifth figure to be released from this line. Here at the side, a lot of negative space. Here at the back, product shots, accessories, different poses you can do with the figure. Here, the one that takes the biggest real estate as far as the pictures are concerned. A product shot that is heavily inspired from one of the scenes from the game. Doesn't have a window, that sucks. In the box comes a manual. I don't really know if I'm going to be able to use this or if I will need this, but just very straightforward instructions to different option parts of the figure. Sword, the hands and whatnot. Stand. It does come with a stand and assembly of a stand, so that's great. Okay, here's a action figure inside the clam. There's a sword, the Masamune, and the 6 hands. I mean, it's 6? No, that's just 5. Yeah, 6 hands. 3 pairs of hands. Hard time speaking, lack of sleep. I've been operating for over 20 hours at this point. Oh no! They're there at the back for a few reasons. 1, they look good. 2, I might not be able to review them one by one. I intend to, but there's a chance that I might not be able to. So we'll see. So here is the figure and everything else that he comes with outside of the stand, of course. I've already mentioned this earlier. We all know how that functions and how to assemble it and whatnot. So for my own convenience, I'm just not going to remove it. We do have the Masamune, and this looks superb. But maybe that's an overstatement, but whatever. It's got 2 colors. The blade has 2 colors. The back side, the side that doesn't have the sharp edge, has a black. I don't know if you can see it clearly through the camera, but if not, I'll just post a picture later. On the sharp edge, it does have the silver. It looks great. Aside from one slight issue here on my copy, there's a weirdness on the plastic. Yeah, I guess you can see that. Not a big deal, but it's there. The hilt is nice. It's got a gray underneath on the actual handle itself. And as an overlay, we've got a blue colored strap, I guess. And the golds here on the pommel and on the guard of the hilt look great. So, not going to complain about that. Overall, the sword, the Masamune, looks great. Yeah, I think the gold is similar to... Well, not really. And then we've got 3 pairs of hands, extra hands outside of the pair of hands that come with the figure. Comes with the figure. Okay, so I guess we do have 2 sets of hands that can hold the sword. I don't know what the differences are between these two pairs, but I guess we'll figure it out later. And then we've got the open style pose. I'm gonna kill you, about to attack you. Hands. So those are great. Painting on the hands are pretty consistent with how they've done it on his wardrobe. So that is pretty neat. I know that I expressed some negativity towards this figure from the very beginning of this review, but that's not to say it doesn't have some great things going for him, because for one, he does look awesome, like super accurate to the source, super nostalgic. The proportions are way better than the first Sephiroth they released from the Bring Arts line. Remember the Kingdom Hearts version of him? I mean, I don't hate that figure, but compared to this looks so much better. This is the Sephiroth that I've always wanted. Okay, so for what he is chock full of details. I mean, aside from the awesome proportions, I mean, the super tapered waist, V-shaped upper body, solid. I mean, the hair is done pretty well. Let's just ignore the fact that it doesn't have any articulation and whatnot. For what it is, it looks really cool. It's the silver color to it, it's shiny, and it's got layers to it. It has a very nice flow. I'll give him that. And his face is just pure awesomeness. That's like his signature expression from the game. He is menacing, he is always scheming, always planning something to destroy the Earth. That is significantly, markedly better than the Kingdom Hearts version that they released a few years back. So, not gonna complain. Those green eyes look solid. Wow. Great job, Square Enix. This is perfect. This is a perfect face for Sephiroth. Okay. We do see that he has a slim and muscular frame underneath. The strap across his body has a nice brown. It's molded and painted perfectly. Same with the silver right here on this design element right there at the middle. That looks great. He's got a nice silver, done pretty well, and there is some silver right here on the belt buckle. This is actually a separate piece, but we're gonna touch on that later on the articulation section of this review. The shoulder pauldrons are almost the same color as the hair, but it's slightly different, and it looks great, including these shoulder pieces right here. I don't know what they are, but I guess they kind of hold his jacket in place, his long coat. Yeah, speaking of the long coat, very nice painting right here. It's not just pure black. If anything, it looks purple. It is a transition between black and purple, and that just elevates the look of this figure. It's not just plain black, so in that sense, it's not boring. It's super, I guess, animated. It's a transition between black and silver, mostly purple. Yeah, now that I'm looking at it, it looks purple for the most part, ever so slightly, like a dark shade of purple with some blacks. The legs keep popping off, so let's just look at this. The straps around his legs, above and below the knees, they are the same color as the material right here on the pauldron, and these thingies across his shoulder. The only gripe I really have about the aesthetics of this figure be the joints sticking out, because they don't have the same color application as the rest of the long coat. It's just plain black, I guess. Keeps popping off. So aside from that, it looks perfect. So for the aesthetics, I'm gonna give it like a 4.5 out of 5. Now let's move on to the articulation of this figure, where it does mostly fall short. Good range looking down. See? This is why I don't like this figure. Joints just keep popping off. I mean, the parts of figure just keep popping off the joint. Whatever. Okay. Head can rotate. I mean, move left to right, no problem. Side to side movement for nuanced posing, so that's great. Diagonal movements, achievable. Awesome. Okay, I mean, there's a joint in the upper and the lower neck portion, so that does offer extended range looking down. Cool. And for the arms, let's go to the arms. The shoulder pauldrons do have articulation. They are separate pieces. Like there's a layer underneath and there's one on top. That's cool. It's got nice details as well. I don't know if I was able to mention this in the aesthetics portion, but yeah, it's got 3 roundy holes right there per shoulder pauldron. I mean, left and right. Yeah, so that's articulated. Like I said, cool. It does flare out, go up, noise. Do the arms, move to the side, an impressive amount. Well, wow, it's first time I'm noticing that it does have a separate piece of plastic right here. I don't know if that does serve as a butterfly joint setup, but I don't really think so. Yeah, maybe. Not so sure. Let me just examine this real quick. Turns out that separate plastic piece that hides the joints is where the shoulder pauldrons are connected to. So, as you can see, it does help get these pieces out of the way even more if you want to articulate the arms. The problem is the arms don't really go out that far to the side. They do go out far enough for you to be able to put him in his iconic pose where his sword is above his head and his other hand goes that way. And for his elbows, you can bend it like so. Doesn't get any better than that. So that's great. So for the upper body, I don't really have any major gripes aside from the arms not moving out to the side way past this point, but that's okay as long as these shoulder pieces don't get in the way of things. I'm good. Let's reconnect his body so it doesn't look like a manananggal. Fuck. Sorry. This is where it gets really ugly. I had to remove his head because there's just no way in hell that I can fudge around with this figure with everything intact. See, it just keeps falling apart. So this is the problem. Okay, problem is this. I like what they did in terms of the proportions of the figure, how accurate his shape is to the source material. I just don't like what they did in order to accomplish that. I think they made some very unnecessary sacrifices. Like, I mean, look at that. That's his ass. The very first thing that really matters to me is the base body of the figure. It's not like he has a crazy amount of clothing parts. Like, this is just a long coat. They should have figured something out in order for these pieces to exist, to be movable, to be articulated without having to, you know, not have any meat in these parts of the figure. Like what the hell, Square Enix? It took me a while to put these parts together, but fucking shit. Dog poo crap. Motherfucker. These parts put together are what makes the figure complete, or what make the figure complete. Okay, I'm just gonna throw my grammar out the window now, because I'm just so mad at how terrible they handled this figure. I don't want to slam this on the desk because I paid a good amount of money for this. I'm doing that with some caution, of course. For the dramatic effect, I'm gonna do that because I'm really angry. Like I said, I don't like the sacrifices they made to achieve the look of this figure, because once you pose him, once you move him, once you articulate him, it just gets so clunky, it gets so janky. Knowing what's underneath there, that it's incomplete without these parts hiding what's underneath. I just don't like that experience. I want the base figure. The base as in, you know, remove these parts, remove the clothing pieces, the extended clothing pieces from the figure. I want it to be as good as this. I don't see why they couldn't do that. See? How about make this an overlay rather than part of his anatomy? I'm just gonna give up trying to put this figure together during this review. His legs can go out that far, so technically that is a solid range going out, but it's too loose, it's too floppy. The joints just pop off too easily. And we also have like a thigh cut right here, and the elbows. The knees have solid range, bending backwards, bending, folding. I don't know. I can't speak anymore. Sleep depravity. Yeah, my sleep deprivation has made me made my soul more depraved than it already is, and my speech impedimented. My speech impaired. I don't know. Maybe there's such a thing as impedimented. We'll see. I'll look it up, and if I'm wrong, I'm still gonna include it in the final edit just for the heck of it. Then just use the other leg for it. Angles. Okay, good range. Can kick forward. Can kick back. Ankle rocker. I guess it does have an ankle rocker, but you have to be extra careful because I experience with Bring Arts figures that tend to have very delicate joints. You can break apart easily if you don't handle them with extra care, like with Mother's Love. I'm just gonna call it as very minimal range for the ankle rocker. Toe joint functions pretty well and has a nice placement, I guess, so it doesn't look weird when you use it. When you use the the toe joint, it doesn't look weird, is what I'm saying. Yeah. Piss poor in execution. I don't like it. It's a very unpleasant experience to say the least, and it just boils my blood, and I just wanna. It just makes me hate myself because it triggers my anger management problems, and it grinds my gears. It took them over a year, I think, to release this figure after announcing it, only for them to fail in epic proportions, massively. Let's just look past the fact, or let's just accept the fact that it does have some systemic issues, if you will, but the implementation of that crappy, sloppy design is just crap on top of crap. Like, these joints could have worked for what it is, for what they are, if they were a bit longer, but they're not. So they appreciate the idea behind it, but once you move it up to a certain degree, it just pops off. Like what the hell, right? Even this dumbbell joint right here is just way too short to accommodate. The placement of that torso for it to function. Oh fuck, man, this sucks. Apologize for all the cursing. It just breaks my heart. So I'm sorry. I'm just gonna abandon this part of the review. It's just way too unpleasant, way too janky, way too flawed, way too broken for what they're charging. I'm not exaggerating when I say that it took me forever to put this figure back together. Ever since the upper body popped out of the lower body, can't for some reason put it back together anymore. And it's super loose now. Anyway, I'm not gonna bother proceeding with this review the way I normally conduct my reviews, because I'm not kidding when I say that I spent over an hour just trying to put him together to no real success. Height measurement, to the best of my ability, given how weird he is, standing right there. If you call that standing, I guess that's about 6.5 inches tall, which is, makes sense. He's much taller than Cloud. If you think he looks weird, that's because he does. Like I said, it took me a very long time to put him together, to no success. See? He's broken down to the core. No pun intended. I can't believe that this guy costs almost as much as this guy does. I mean, this is a Revoltech, right? And on top of that, this is a Marvel product. This is a Marvel character. So Revoltech had to pay licensing fees to Marvel, and I guess to Disney, because Disney owns Marvel. Everything. I mean, Disney owning everything that's Marvel. Blah blah blah. Maybe this costs about $10 more than this guy, but the difference in value is just way too significant. This is astronomically better than this guy. To think that he comes with a lot of accessories. I mean, just span this out. See that? You get a lot of guns, blast effects, the tentacles, I guess, the venomized parts. I just realized that I kind of share the same, similar color scheme. The point is, There's just no reason for Square Enix to be charging this much money for a crappy product, because for one, they own the IP. They don't have to pay any licensing fees. They have no excuse not to make the best product out there for characters that they own the IPs to. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. This is a ripoff. This product is a ripoff. This has no business being this expensive. Very minimal accessories. Build quality is just piss poor, and to think that they underscaled these recent Bring Arts releases. Okay, I just can't not do this. Here's the previous, the much older Cloud that Bring Arts released a few years back. This was, of course, from the Kingdom Hearts version. There's a world of difference in terms of build quality, and look at how much they've downscaled. You know, the classic FF VII figures. I mean, that's not the real issue here. The real issue is that the quality is just poor. How have they overlooked quality control on these products? It's just inexcusable given how much they're charging us for these and how much time they actually take to release these figures. You would think that these had to undergo several layers of quality control, clearances, whatever, but turns out that it's as if they set a release date of a year and a half from now, but then they do it at the very last minute, like 15 days before releasing these figures. That's just absurd. Like I said, you guys own the IP. You're greedy as far as lending your licenses is concerned to other companies who can probably do a better job than you guys do. So, given that, you shouldn't be aiming for less than perfection in executing these figures. I mean, they look good. They painted very nicely, and they look super accurate to the source material, but those aren't enough to justify, again, how much you're charging for these figures. It's insane. If I remember correctly, I think I got this figure for around 65 USD when I pre-ordered him. It was way back 2019, 2018. This guy, around $110. Like last year, or was it this year? Whenever it was that it was released here in Southeast Asia, that's when I got him. But look, I think that they should have retained the pricing since they underscaled him by a lot. This Kingdom Hearts version aged really well, and to this day it's still one of my favorite figures of all time, because of the color scheme, the amount of painting they've done, the awesomeness of the design itself. I mean, I did kind of fall in love with Cloud's design in Kingdom Hearts, even though he was a little over the top. I do love the color scheme. I think that the red here, the red scarf, just lends itself to a very awesome design. Kind of reminds me of Strider Hiryu from. He was popularized in, I think, Marvel vs. Capcom. At least that's where I know him from. And it also kind of reminds me of Ichigo's look. You know, Bleach. In the Serite arc, when he was rescuing Rukia from whatever, was it Byakuya? I can't remember anymore, but I remember Ichigo looking really cool, and this reminds me of that. Yeah, I don't know what's the point of this. I'm just saying, better value than this. Better value than all these figures, except for Barrett. Barrett is cool. I think they can become Padres, if you don't really mind. Barrett looking chunky but shorter than Cloud. I mean, Barrett's supposed to be chunky, but I mean, at least he's still chunky next to him. Whatever. Seriously, this is way more stable, way more fun to handle. Articulation is not the best, but it gets the job done for having such a simple articulation setup. You can put him in very cool poses, and you won't have any problems with his joints breaking apart, because I mean, I did mention earlier that Square Enix, Bring Arts does have do what? I mean, I did mention earlier that Bring Arts figures do have a reputation of being fragile in some areas, the joints, but I never had that kind of issue with this Cloud. So you know, it's not like the articulation is out of this world, but for its very simplistic design, it does work, and you can put him in pretty fun, pretty cool poses. I don't have a problem with the way this Cloud looks because it is faithful to the source, and he is painted nicely, and everything looks solid. It does suffer from similar joint problems. See, Sephiroth, but not as worse. Oh boy. Yeah. Oh. Whatever positive thing I said about Sephiroth, I'm taking it all back because sour taste he left in my mouth as I tried to examine his articulation points. I guess what I'm saying is, if you're looking to buy this Sephiroth as your first Bring Arts figure because you're a fan of FF7 and you want this to be your gateway figure, don't. Just look the other way and don't start collecting this line. Sure, Barrett is nice, Cloud is okay, although he suffers from a similar issue as Sephiroth, but slightly more tolerable. And you would definitely be missing out on Tifa. Aerith, in my opinion, sucks. They just don't function well as action figures, and that's what they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be fun, they're supposed to be cool, and they're supposed to be perfect. Because $100 for each of these minimum, no excuse for them to be less than that. Anyway, I don't want to sound like a broken record. I'm just gonna give this guy a negative score. -1 out of 5. It doesn't deserve any consolation prizes for simply existing. The only people who wouldn't have a problem owning this figure are those inbox collectors who never have the intention to remove the figures out of the clam, never remove the figures out of the box. So good for you guys, but for collectors like myself who want to enjoy the full value of the figure by being able to pose it around, this sucks. This is hot garbage. Don't buy. Avoid it at all costs. But of course, if you're like myself, you've already started collecting Cloud and the rest of the crew, then you're pretty much trapped with this guy because he's the only figure that really fits into this collection. So, woe is me. Anyway, bye for now.